he is probably never going to walk up to you and simply say, "I want to hug you." That is not how most men express those feelings. They rarely announce it. They rarely sit down and explain every emotion in a clear way that removes all the mystery. But his body has likely been telling you the same thing for much longer than you realize. The signs have been there while you were standing beside him, talking, laughing, sharing ordinary moments, and quietly convincing yourself that you were reading too much into it. You kept telling yourself that maybe you imagined it. Maybe he is naturally friendly with everyone. Maybe he treats every person this way. Maybe you are only noticing these little moments because you secretly hope they mean something. Yet the same pattern kept repeating. That small feeling inside your chest refused to disappear. It quietly whispered, "Wait a second, this feels different. This isn't how he acts with everybody else. There is something personal happening here." And the truth is, your instincts were picking up something real. You were not confused. You simply did not have the words to explain what you were seeing. That is exactly what this conversation is going to help you understand. Once you recognize these 8 quiet signs, you will stop sitting alone after meeting him, replaying every smile, every glance, every tiny moment over and over, wondering what it all meant. Instead, you will notice the answers while everything is happening. You will understand them in real time without waiting for him to explain anything. Stay with me because some of the strongest signs are the ones almost everyone overlooks. And once you notice them, you will never look at his behavior the same way again. Before we talk about those signs, though, there is one important thing we have to understand first. This is the part many people ignore, even though it explains everything that comes after. Once you truly understand this, the signals stop feeling confusing and start making complete sense. Many men simply do not communicate emotions the same way many women naturally do. For many women, speaking feelings creates connection. Saying, "I missed you," or "I've been thinking about you," feels natural. It brings emotions out into the open where closeness grows. But for many men, especially when emotions are still new, uncertain, and difficult to define, saying those words out loud can feel like taking a huge emotional risk. The moment those feelings become spoken, they suddenly become real. And real emotions can be rejected. Real emotions can change the relationship forever. Real emotions can create awkwardness where there was once comfort. That possibility makes many men hesitate. So instead of explaining every feeling, they communicate differently. Instead of using long conversations, they allow their actions to speak. Instead of choosing words first, they let their body quietly reveal what their heart has not yet learned to say. And what happens next may surprise you, because the smallest movements often tell the biggest emotional story. He chooses closeness. He finds small reasons to move nearer to you. He repeats tiny actions that seem ordinary on the surface but quietly carry much more meaning underneath. The problem is that these moments are incredibly easy to miss if no one has ever explained what they really mean. Most women were never taught to notice these silent signals. Instead, they were taught to wait for words. They learned that words are the proof, that words are what make feelings official, clear, and safe to believe. And that belief is exactly why so many women stay confused. They replay conversations, question every interaction, and spend hours wondering what he really meant, while the answer has been right in front of them all along. So let's change that today. Let's slowly go through each of these 8 signs together. By the time we reach the end, you may find yourself remembering moments you've already shared with him, and suddenly everything begins to fit together in a way it never did before. Some of these signs are so quiet that almost nobody notices them the first time. That is why you will want to stay until the end, because the final signs often explain everything that came before. The first sign is simple but incredibly powerful. He keeps finding little reasons to reduce the space between the two of you. Those reasons often sound believable at first, but if you really think about them, they are not always necessary. I'm not talking about him walking over because he honestly needs to tell you something important. I'm talking about those tiny excuses that are just convincing enough to avoid drawing attention. He comes over to stand beside you, even though there was plenty of room where he already was. At dinner, he slides his chair a little closer, even though he could already hear every word you were saying. In a group, he naturally ends up beside you instead of sitting across from you, even when sitting across would have made more sense for the conversation. Somehow, no matter where you move, he seems to appear in the same part of the room. Nothing practical is bringing him there except your presence. And here's what makes this so interesting. He usually isn't planning it. He isn't silently telling himself, now I'm going to move closer. It happens naturally. When a man feels drawn to someone, his body often reacts before his mind has fully caught up. It isn't a carefully planned decision, it's a quiet pull. Almost like gravity gently guiding him toward the person he enjoys being around. His body follows what his heart already knows, long before his words are ready to explain it. So if you've noticed that he somehow always ends up near you, that the distance between you seems to disappear as the evening goes on, or that he keeps choosing your side when he had many other choices, don't brush it off as luck or coincidence anymore. Don't convince yourself it's just random movement around a room. Without saying a single word, he is choosing to be as close to you as he comfortably can. Keep watching, because the next sign becomes even harder to ignore once you know what to look for. The second sign is found in the little touches that have no real reason behind them. I'm not talking about dramatic romantic moments. Those are easy to recognize. I'm talking about the quiet touches that most people dismiss without thinking twice. He lightly brushes against your arm as he walks past, even though there was enough space to avoid touching you at all. He gently places his hand on your back while you both walk through a doorway together. He notices something on your jacket and reaches over to fix it, or carefully moves a loose strand of hair away from your face, and somehow his hand stays there just a heartbeat longer than necessary. Maybe he lightly bumps your shoulder after something funny happens, even though smiling or laughing would have been enough. These moments may seem small, but they carry more meaning than most people realize. Physical touch is one of the strongest forms of silent communication we have. And most people, especially men, don't casually create unnecessary physical contact with everyone around them. When someone only sees you as a friend, they usually respect comfortable personal space without even thinking about it. They don't search for reasons to cross that invisible line. But when there is growing attraction, before words are spoken and before feelings are fully understood, the body begins searching for harmless opportunities to create brief moments of connection. Even if that contact lasts only a second, it matters. Every small touch becomes a quiet question. It gently asks, "How does this feel? Is this okay? Do you welcome my closeness?" Without realizing it, he watches your reaction. If you remain relaxed, if you smile naturally, if you don't step away or become uncomfortable, he notices that too. Maybe not consciously, but his mind remembers it. That silent comfort gives him confidence, making it easier for him to create another small moment of closeness the next time the opportunity appears. Pay attention to these tiny moments because they often reveal emotions that words are still trying to catch up with. The third sign is hidden inside his eye contact. On the surface, this seems like an obvious one, but the real clue isn't simply whether he looks at you, it's how long he stays there before looking away. That's where the real story begins. During normal conversations between friends, co-workers, or strangers, eye contact naturally comes and goes. People look at each other while speaking, glance away for a moment, then return again. It's comfortable, balanced, and expected. But when someone feels something deeper, those ordinary patterns often begin to change without them realizing it. His eyes remain on you just a little longer than they need to. Sometimes he keeps looking, even after you've finished talking. Sometimes your eyes meet, neither of you speaks for a second. Yet, he doesn't immediately look away. It becomes one of those quiet pauses where time feels just a little slower than usual. Those are the moments people often remember long after the conversation ends. And here's something many people miss. Eye contact is one of the hardest forms of body language to fake for long. We naturally look longer at the people who make us feel emotionally connected. Our attention stays where our feelings already are. So if you've ever caught him watching you while you were laughing with someone else, or noticed him holding your gaze just a second longer before smiling and looking away, don't dismiss those moments too quickly. They often reveal far more than spoken words ever could. And believe me, the next signs become even more revealing because this is only the beginning of what his body may already be telling you without saying a single word. In a normal conversation, eye contact naturally comes and goes. People look at each other for a moment, then glance away, look around the room, notice something nearby, and then return to the conversation. Nobody thinks much about it because it happens without effort. But when someone feels a real attraction, something changes. Looking into your eyes starts to feel comforting. It becomes a moment they don't want to end too quickly. Instead of breaking eye contact right away, they hold it just a little longer than the situation requires. It's only an extra second, but that second changes everything. The atmosphere becomes different. The conversation suddenly feels more personal. Neither of you may say anything, yet both of you can sense that something has shifted. Now here's the detail that many people completely miss. It isn't only about how long he looks at you, it's also about what he does the moment the eye contact finally ends. Pay attention to where his eyes go next. If he quickly looks around the room, that's different from looking down. When a man looks down after sharing a long, meaningful glance, it often shows that the moment affected him emotionally. He needed a brief second to settle his thoughts before returning to the conversation. It may sound like a tiny detail, but it is one of the most honest pieces of body language because it usually happens without planning. You cannot easily pretend that a simple glance made your emotions shift. If you've shared moments where your eyes stayed connected longer than usual and he quietly looked down before speaking again, don't dismiss it as random. Those silent seconds often reveal feelings that words have not caught up with yet. Keep watching because the next sign is even more fascinating, and once you notice it, you'll start seeing it almost everywhere. Another powerful sign appears when he begins to mirror you without even realizing it. This is one of the clearest signals of genuine connection because it happens naturally. It isn't a trick. It isn't something people usually plan. It comes from a deeper level where the brain responds automatically to someone it feels comfortable around. You lean forward during the conversation, and after a little while, he finds himself leaning forward too. You slow down the way you speak, and before long his voice begins matching your pace. You smile or laugh, and almost instantly he joins in, even if he didn't catch every single word. You tilt your head while listening, and later you notice he has slipped into a very similar posture without either of you realizing when it happened. Even the overall energy between you starts to move together. When you feel relaxed, he becomes more relaxed. When you grow quieter, he naturally lowers his energy as well. It is almost like both of you are sharing the same rhythm without trying. This is what happens when two people become emotionally tuned into each other. It goes beyond being polite. It goes beyond simple friendship. And that is exactly why this sign matters so much. Someone can choose to smile more often. Someone can decide to hold eye contact or stand a little closer, but consistently matching another person's posture, timing, energy, and movement throughout an entire evening is incredibly difficult to fake. It happens because the connection feels real. So if you've noticed his body quietly following your rhythm, his voice adjusting to yours, or his energy naturally responding to your presence, don't ignore it. His actions are revealing where his attention truly rests. Stay with me, because the next sign is one of the biggest clues of all. Another strong clue appears when he keeps finding reasons to stay longer than he originally planned. This one seems so ordinary that many people completely overlook it. He casually says he only has an hour, yet somehow 2 hours pass and he's still sitting there talking with you. He stands up with his jacket already on, keys in his hand, clearly ready to leave. Then somehow the conversation starts again. Before either of you realizes it, he has sat back down for another 45 minutes. Every time the evening reaches one of those natural pauses where either person could comfortably say goodbye, he gently opens another topic. He asks another question. He remembers one more story. He brings up something interesting that keeps both of you talking just a little longer. This usually isn't because he has nowhere else to be. It happens because leaving means creating distance again, and part of him simply isn't ready for that. Being close to you feels good in a way he probably hasn't fully explained even to himself. So instead of saying, "I just want to stay with you," he quietly creates reasons that make staying feel natural. If this happens often, if your conversations regularly last much longer than either of you expected, don't dismiss it as poor planning. More often than not, it's a quiet decision. Out of everything he could be doing, he chooses to spend those extra moments with you. That choice speaks louder than many words ever could. The next sign is so subtle that most people never notice it until someone points it out. Watch the direction his body naturally faces. In group conversations or busy rooms, body orientation often tells the truth before words do. A person can look towards someone while speaking, yet their chest, shoulders, and feet may already be pointing somewhere completely different. But when someone feels naturally drawn to another person, their body quietly turns toward them without any conscious effort. His feet point in your direction, his shoulders slowly open toward you. His chest naturally faces where his attention truly wants to be, even if he is talking to someone else nearby. You might notice this at a dinner table, during a group gathering, or while standing with friends. Even while the conversation moves around the room, his body repeatedly finds its way back toward you. If you're sitting beside each other, his posture angles slightly closer. If you're standing across the room, his feet often remain pointed your way. These tiny movements happen because our bodies usually reveal our strongest focus before our minds decide to hide it. So if you've noticed him naturally turning toward you again and again, even when the situation doesn't require it, don't brush it aside as meaningless. These silent movements often reveal where his interest truly lives. And believe me, the final signs become even more revealing because they show what happens when attraction grows strong enough that the body simply can't hide it anymore. That is not simply the way he happened to sit or stand. That is where his attention naturally goes. His body keeps choosing your direction even while his conversation is focused somewhere else. And that matters because the body is often more truthful than words. It quietly reveals what a person feels before they are ready to admit it. Another powerful sign appears in the way he reacts when you touch him, compared with how he reacts when other people do. This is one of the clearest clues on this entire list, yet it happens so quickly that many women never notice it. The next time you lightly touch his arm, his shoulder, or even brush against him in a completely casual way, watch what happens during the very next second. Does he suddenly become still for just a moment? Does his expression soften or change in a way that's difficult to describe? Does he become a little quieter than he was only a second before? Does he glance toward the place where you touched him, or look back at you with a slightly different expression than usual? Those tiny reactions matter. When someone feels genuinely attracted to you, your touch doesn't feel the same as everyone else's. It reaches deeper than simple physical contact. It creates a quiet emotional response that is almost impossible to hide, even when they are trying their best to stay calm and act completely normal. That brief pause, that tiny silence, that split second where everything else around him seems to disappear, is often his mind processing a feeling he wasn't expecting. Now think about how he reacts when other people casually touch him. Is there a clear difference when the touch comes from you? If there is, don't ignore it. You probably noticed it before, but never knew how important it really was. Stay with me, because the final sign ties everything together in a way that makes all the others easier to understand. The last sign is not about one single action. It is about a pattern that quietly builds over time. He creates little moments of closeness that have no real practical purpose, except that he wanted to share them with you. He remembers something small you mentioned weeks ago and unexpectedly brings it up again, proving he was listening far more carefully than you realized. He hears a song, sees a place, notices something funny, and immediately thinks of you. Instead of keeping that thought to himself, he shares it with you. He suggests spending time with just the two of you, even when inviting a larger group would have been the easier choice. He brings back little inside jokes or memories that only the two of you understand. These tiny moments may seem ordinary on their own, but together they create something much bigger. Without saying it directly, he is building a private connection that belongs only to the two of you. People don't usually create these shared moments by accident. They don't remember tiny details simply to be polite. They do it because someone has become important to them. These quiet choices reveal a growing emotional investment long before the words ever appear. Every little memory he saves, every thoughtful message, every small reference to something only you share becomes another brick in a connection he is quietly building. And once you start seeing that pattern, it becomes much harder to dismiss it as coincidence. Now here is where many women accidentally make things much more confusing than they need to be. They notice these signs. They feel that quiet certainty growing inside them. Part of them realizes something meaningful is happening. Then doubt slowly returns. They tell themselves they need one more sign. They decide they should wait until he clearly says the words out loud before believing any of it. While they wait, uncertainty begins to grow again. They wonder if they imagined everything. They question every moment that once felt obvious. To avoid looking too interested, they become a little more distant. They answer a little slower. They hide their excitement because they don't want to seem too available. But from his point of view, that distance often looks like rejection. He starts wondering if she has lost interest. Unsure of what she feels, he quietly steps back too. No arguments happen. No dramatic ending takes place. The connection simply fades before either person gives it the chance to grow. Not because the feelings were missing, but because both people were waiting for certainty while silently overlooking everything that was already happening. That's why understanding body language matters so much. Sometimes the message has already been delivered long before the words arrive. Keep watching, because this final thought may completely change how you see your next conversation. Think back to everything you've learned. Every time he moved closer without a real reason. Every gentle touch that lasted just a heartbeat longer than necessary. Every meaningful glance that stayed locked with yours before he quietly looked away. Every evening that somehow stretched far beyond the original plan because he kept finding one more reason to stay. Every moment his body naturally turned toward you, even in a room full of distractions. Every time your touch caused him to pause, even for a second, in a way nobody else's did. Every thoughtful memory, every shared joke, every little moment created just for the two of you. None of those things were meaningless. You weren't imagining them. You simply didn't have the right way to understand what they were telling you. Now you do. So the next time you're with him and your mind starts questioning everything again, pause for a moment. Stop focusing only on the words he says or the words he hasn't said yet. Instead, pay attention to what his body keeps doing when he believes nobody is noticing. The body rarely worries about appearances. It doesn't carefully edit every movement. It simply responds to what it truly feels. And if his actions match the signs you've learned today, don't dismiss them so quickly. Trust what you're seeing. Real feelings don't always begin with perfect sentences. Sometimes they begin with quiet actions, repeated over and over until they become impossible to ignore. If this helped you understand something you've been wondering about, make sure to leave a like and let me know in the comments by writing the word "seen." I'd love to know if you've recognized any of these signs in someone close to you. And if you enjoy honest, simple breakdowns about relationships, attraction, and the silent ways people communicate what they feel, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Remember, you don't always have to wait for someone to finally say the words. Sometimes the truth has been there all along. You simply needed to know where to look.